A small kitten gets trapped in traffic, with cars rushing toward her from all sides. Just then, a brave dog runs into the middle of the road and barks loudly, forcing all the cars to stop. With his courage, he saves the kitten's life and shows everyone that a true hero has a kind and pure heart. Traffic, trouble, and a wagging tail. Late afternoon sun leaked across the city street, turning the cars into a slow, glittering river of metal. Horns puffed short, angry notes like ducks that had lost their patience. The air smelled of hot asphalt, exhaust, and something delicious from a food cart no one could actually reach because everything was stuck. On the corner, a golden retriever named Max panted happily, as if this noisy traffic jam had been arranged just for his entertainment. His red bandana was a little crooked, his fur caught the light like honey, and his tail moved so hard it looked like it might unscrew his whole backside. "Easy, Max, we're waiting for the light," his human, Sarah said, wrapping the leash twice around her hand. Max half listened. He sat because he was mostly a good dog, but his whole body buzzed. So many cars, so many people, so many possibilities. Every horn in his mind was clearly someone yelling, "Hey Max, love you, buddy." A white sedan crept past with its window half open. The driver, a tired-looking man in a shirt that had given up long ago, glanced over. Max tilted his head, tongue lolling out. The man's scowl cracked and he lifted his fingers in a tiny wave. Sarah laughed. "See, you're like a furry traffic therapist." Max didn't know what a therapist was, but he was sure it had to do with snacks, so he wagged even harder. The crossing light was still red. People crowded around the curb. A delivery guy balancing boxes, a woman with headphones whisper-singing to herself, a kid licking the very last, slightly suspicious layer of his ice cream cone. A gust of wind sent a plastic bag flying into the street. Max's ears perked up. He squinted at it with the serious intensity only dogs and toddlers reserve for floating trash. His paw lifted, then dropped when the bag skidded safely under a parked car. "No, we're not chasing that," Sarah said, reading his mind. "Last time you almost dragged me into a mailbox, remember?" Max blinked innocently at her. Mailbox? What mailbox? He had never met a mailbox in his life. Absolutely not. Must have been some other golden retriever with an equally charming bandana. Across the road, horns blared again. The traffic light had just turned green, but the first driver was daydreaming. The car behind him honked in a long, theatrical way. Someone farther back in the line answered with a different horn, like a trumpet arguing with a tuba. The whole street rumbled with impatience. Through it all, Max's nose twitched. Under the fumes and hot rubber, something else drifted past him. It was faint, like a secret whispered under a blanket. He lifted his head higher, sniffing. Sarah felt the leash tug. "What is it now, detective?" she teased. Max didn't look away from the street. His ears tilted forward, tail slowed a bit. Sniff, sniff, sniff. There it was again. A thin, shaky sound slipped between the car engines. Not a horn, not a brake squeal. A high, stuttering cry that didn't match the shape of the city at all. MRRRO. Nobody on the corner seemed to notice. The kid had finally given up on the ice cream cone and was now wearing most of it. The delivery guy was complaining into his phone. Sarah was checking the crosswalk light that stubbornly refused to change. Max leaned so far toward the curb that his front paws ended up on the very edge of the sidewalk. The sound came again, a little louder this time, wobbly and desperate. MRRRRO. Max saw it then, between two rows of slowly inching cars. Right there in the middle of the lane, where no living thing should ever be, a tiny orange shape crouched low against the hot asphalt. Its fur was puffed up, its tail wrapped tightly around its body. Little ears pressed flat like they were trying to disappear. A kitten. No collar, no box, no human nearby. Just four shaky paws and two wide eyes reflecting headlights. A blue hatchback crept forward, its driver staring at his phone, thumb tapping the screen. He had music playing, windows shut. He couldn't hear a thing outside his private little world. Max's chest tightened. He made a low, worried noise, almost a whine. Sarah looked down at him. "Hey, buddy, what's wrong?" she asked, following his gaze. For a second, she didn't see it either. It was so small, the kitten, almost the same color as the road, just a slightly brighter smudge between tires and shadow. Then the kitten lifted its head and opened its mouth in another silent cry. Sarah's breath caught. "Oh no," she whispered. The blue car rolled closer. The driver still didn't look up. The kitten tried to move, but its back legs only shuffled an inch. Fear seemed to pin it to the ground. It pressed itself flatter, like that would make the car pass over without touching it. Max could feel Sarah's hand tighten on his leash. His own heart kicked like it wanted to jump out first. Another car behind the blue one honked impatiently. The blue car jolted forward a little faster this time, trying to make up for the delay. The front tire bumped over a small pothole, then lined up perfectly with the frightened orange bundle just a few feet ahead. On the sidewalk, people started to notice something was wrong, but they couldn't quite see what it was. A few lifted their phones, holding them high, trying to look over the cars. Someone muttered, "Is that a squirrel?" Someone else shook their head. "Nah, just trash, keep moving." Max knew it wasn't trash. Every instinct in him screamed that it was small, alive, and in the wrong place. He let out a sharp, loud bark. Sarah jumped. "Max, heel," she said automatically, even though they weren't walking. But Max didn't want to heel. He wanted to move. Everything in his body turned forward, every whisker, every muscle, every beat of his heart pointing straight at the helpless shape on the road. The crosswalk light was still red. Cars were still sliding around each other, trapped but moving, a slow metal puzzle that could crush something tiny without even noticing. The kitten gave up trying to scoot away. It just squeezed its eyes shut. Max's nails scraped the curb as he pulled again, harder this time. A soft growl, more scared than angry, rumbled in his throat. "Max, stop, you're going to pull me into the street," Sarah said, stumbling a step. Behind them, another horn blared, louder, annoyed at nothing and everything. A truck rolled up in the next lane, rattling, blocking part of Sarah's view. She rose on her toes, trying to see around it, one hand gripping Max's leash, the other pressed over her mouth. For a heartbeat, the kitten disappeared behind the dark shape of the truck's tire. Max couldn't see it anymore. He could only smell the sharp, panicked scent of a small animal and hear the rumble of engines building as the lane finally started to clear. The white car at the front of the line rolled forward, its driver determined not to be the slow one this time. The nose of the car glided straight toward the tiny patch of road where the kitten had been. Max planted his front paws so hard against the concrete that his whole body shook, muscles coiled like springs. Sarah felt the leash stretch tight in her fingers, straining toward the traffic. The white car did not slow down. Max's ears pinned back, his eyes locked on the gap beneath the bumper. In the exact moment when the kitten's small orange tail flicked back into view, just inches from the moving tire, Max made his choice.